So I'm here with my coach and mentor, Dr. Pompa, and he just gave an amazing talk, the 5 R's. I thought it was one of the best talks I've ever seen you give, and I've seen many of your talks.
That's good.
And I love the work that he's doing, and I'm so blessed and privileged to have you coach me. And he wouldn't say this ever, but I say it all the time. He's the best of the best. Out of all the people I've studied in the last 11 years, I really consider you world class, the best of the best, and I'm so grateful that I get to have you mentor me. So I have a lot of questions from your talk.
Oh, I'm honored too, because you take the information and you bring it to thousands of people, man. I mean, through Keto Camp, through everything you're doing. So thank you for that.
Yes, absolutely. It's an obligation and a responsibility that I feel.
That's the way I feel as well.
So you talked about the 5 R's, and the first R was removing the source, removing the interference.
Yeah.
And you talked about the cell membrane being very important when it comes to the health of a person.
R2. Regenerating
that cell. Now, where does something like fish oil fall into that?
Yeah. So fish oil is, I think, all the rage right now, right? I mean, take fish oil, it downregulates inflammation. But when you study the cell membrane, the omega-3 is not the key, especially DHA in fish oil. Now, that doesn't make DHA bad, omega-3 bad. It's not the point. The point is that it's the omega-6 in the membrane that actually gives the membrane its function. So to restore a damaged membrane, which, again, people watching this are like, what does that mean to me? So we have to kind of talk about that.
Yes.
But it's the omega-6, and we have some tools there. One of which one of the scientists is sitting over here, Pure Form, Vista. So we have some, balanced omega-6, stable omega-6 that we need to get into these vital membranes. What does that mean to you? You don't fix hormones, weight loss resistance without fixing your membranes, because the receptors to the hormones, as you know, are on the membrane. So this is a talk. I mean, I could have done another talk, an hour just on fixing the membrane. Also, I talked a lot about epigenetics, meaning we get certain genes that get turned on. A gene for weight loss resistance, obesity get turned on, diabetes, thyroid conditions. We have to turn those off, but you can't turn those bad genes off without fixing the cell, regenerating the cell membrane. So these fats that a lot of people aren't talking about really are the critical component of what we do. And also, the biohacks, fasting.
Yes.
Talked all about fasting, feast-famine cycles, keto, how ketones, can fix these membranes, right? So it's not just one thing. It's all of these biohacks we do together. Obviously you're teaching a lot of that in Keto Camp.
Yeah, so you talked about epigenetics, meaning above the gene. And we know that we are in control over our destiny, not the other way around. Our genes don't determine our destiny.
Absolutely.
So would you consider the cell membrane being kind of like the bodyguard of the cell? What's going on with the
It is. And I quoted Bruce Lipton. He wrote a book called Biology of Belief. And when, even to this day, if you ask a cell biologist where the intelligence of the cell, they mistakenly would say the DNA, the nucleus. A chiropractor might say, it's the spinal cord, the central nervous system, if you will. But it's the cell membrane. And Lipton and others now know the intelligence of our body. Life begins and ends on the cell membranes. And that is ultimately how we turn genes on and off. That's how we get good things in our cells. You can take all the perfect diet, all the nutrition you want. If that membrane is inflamed, you can't get the good in, you can't get the toxins out. So it becomes a critical tipping point of real detox in really turning down all of these bad genes that we've upregulated via stressors and toxins.
So a lot of people, they have goals to lose weight, and you just said that you could have the best diet, and your quote is, the perfect diet won't get you well, but you can't get well without the perfect diet.
Right.
Because if you have inflammation, even if you're eating the best nutrients in the world, if those nutrients can't get into the cell, then you're not going to feel well.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the point. So when we look at what is causing this inflammation of the membrane, by the way, inflammation is actually R4, reducing inflammation. We know toxins is the big gun. And that's what's driving inflammation, people not feeling well. That's what's keeping their hormones dysregulated, because it's infecting the receptors that are on the membrane. So again, as I pointed out, all of these R's play into why we have an epidemic of people hormonally dysregulated, not feeling well, brain fog, gut problems, etc.
And I want to ask you a final question here, but before I do, you talked about the 3 hidden sources of cellular inflammation. It's going to be infection, so mouth infection.
And this is R1, right?
R1.
These sources that if we don't get to, that most people in our space are not really addressing.
No, they're not.
So hidden infections,
Yep.
and I think they're just evil things. Bible talks about pestilence, right? It's
Yeah.
like affecting people. It's like, when you look at these hidden infections, cavitations, root canals, people aren't addressing this. And it may not even be the thing that got you sick, but you won't get well without addressing them. They keep your immune system down and drive hyperimmunity, autoimmunity, food allergies. Hidden infections is a big one.
And then we have two that I'm familiar with because it happened in my life, which is mold. Hidden mold I had in my house. Remember when we were talking?
Yeah, you could eat the perfect diet. If you're in a mold trap like you were in,
Yeah.
not getting
And I had 8 tiny silver fillings for 20 plus years since I was a kid.
that mercury in those fillings went into your head for all of those years,
So
into your brain.
and Dr. Pompa taught the platinum to myself. I'm a platinum practitioner. How to detox the mercury from the brain that accumulates throughout the extent of that mercury, that silver filling that was in your mouth. So for me, this is very personal because it affected my health and my hormones and my life.
I've watched you transform even in the last year, and it's, again, nobody, as much as you're a smart dude, man. It's like, but smarts doesn't cut it when you don't go to get to these sources.
Right.
People just don't know, right?
Right.
Doctors don't know. But the hidden infections has to be looked at least as a possibility of why you're not well. The mold that you were in, right? I mean, then okay, you discover, but then what do you do about it, right? It's how do you get it out of your brain and your body and your cells? And then the heavy metals. Most of it's done wrong. People do heavy metal detox for 3 months and they think it's out. I still pull it out of our brain.
Yeah.
I still do brain phases, but you're passionately teaching this, and you are one of the platinum doctors. That means you have the ability to deal with these areas correctly.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful for that because for me it was a blind spot, and you helped unveil that blind spot. And now I can actually attack it and get better. Final question is, with all the tools that we talk about, there's so many tools in the health toolbox. Which one is your favorite? Why? And how could somebody take action with you today?
God, I have to say, we the membrane.
Yeah.
Fixing the membrane. R number 2. And we didn't go through all the R's, but R number 2 almost dictates the rest of the R's. So when the membranes are inflamed, it affects the cell energy. When your cell energy is down, now you have an upregulation of inflammation. Okay, and when the inflammation's up, now it affects something called methylation, which affects all your hormones. So one R affects the next, but the membrane is critical. And I in the lecture, I went back to Otto Warburg, a guy who really showed us the causative factors of why people are developing cancer, and it came down to the membrane. One omega-6 actually in the mitochondrial membrane is a tipping point. What can you do at home right away?
Yeah.
Start paying attention to eating better omega-6. Grass-fed meats. When you go to restaurants, even Whole Foods and other health food stores, eliminate canola oil, vegetable oil. It stays in your body 132 days on average. It's worse than sugar. My children know that now, but the fact is get rid of that stuff out of your family's diet. When we go to restaurants, we tell them we're allergic. Olive oil, grass-fed butter is the way to go. Even just butter. I mean, anything but canola oil, vegetable oil. Those are bad omega-6 that displace the good omega-6 that your cells need, membrane need to function and have normal hormones, etc. So get those fats out, replace them with raw nuts and seeds, grass-fed meats. You can do that now.
I love that because the way I look at it is what professional athletes do. Let's talk about Tom Brady real quick, Dwayne Wade. What do they do towards the end of their career? They take less hits. They remove the interference. So what we're talking about here is taking less hits.
That's it.
And you live a longer life. So the vegetable oils right there. We go to restaurants, you let them know, hey, I'm allergic to the canola, all that. Whole Foods, the hot bar there, it's loaded with it.
There's no doubt. Just leave them this one point. When you eat those vegetable oils and canola oils and you don't pay attention to those ingredients or what they're cooking, 132 days of dysfunction
around that cell membrane.
Around that
membrane. That we've talked about.
And that affects your genes. That affects your hormones, and et cetera, et cetera.
So what's the final message after that message that you want to say to the keto campers? Say, keto campers, what do you want to leave them with here?
Keto is a big part of what we talked about. I showed studies showing that ketones downregulate inflammation, help fix your gut, and it's part of a multi-therapeutic approach.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Pompa. Before we close it, I want to say one thing, and that I'm so grateful for you and what you've done for my health and what you do to teach me and so many around the world. This man is the most brilliant person I've ever met, and I'm so grateful to know you and have you coach me. So thank you so much.
It means a lot to me, man.
I appreciate you.